Mr. Rivera, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that you will faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as an interpreter to the best of your abilities. So help you God and upon your perjuries. Good morning, Mr. Morel-Vargas. My name is Parole Officer Logan. Today is Friday, March 28, 2025, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning, and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Nancy Turner, good morning.
Good morning, Robert Cesowski.
Good morning, panel member Rodriguez.
Buenos días, soy la oficial de libertad condicional Logan. Hoy es viernes 28 de marzo del 2025 y esta es una audiencia de la Junta de Adultos y Libertad Condicional de Connecticut. Los siguientes miembros de la Junta están presentes esta mañana y al decir sus nombres en el registro certifican haber revisado todos los documentos legalmente requeridos e información pertinente disponible en preparación a esta audiencia.
Also present by the speakerphone is Office of Victim Service Advocate Hamlet Williams.
También presente vía teléfono está la representante de la Oficina de Víctimas, Ms. Hamlet Williams.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record.
Por favor, decir su nombre y número de confinado para el registro.
Nuelito Morel-Vargas, 412725.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Nuelito Morel-Vargas, 412725. He is serving a sentence of 15 years, executed suspended after serving 8 years, followed by 10 years probation for sexual assault first, use of force or threat. He is to remain on the sex offender registry for life. As of today, registry parole eligibility date of August 29, 2025. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed good intentions, bad choices, the short track sex offender program, voices, and he works as the janitor. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the low range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low range. Mr. Morel-Vargas, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Esta audiencia se está llevando a cabo en consideración a la aplicación de libertad condicional de Nuelito Morel-Vargas, número 412725. Él está sirviendo una sentencia de 15 años, ejecución suspendida luego de servir 8 años, seguido de 10 años de libertad provisional por agresión sexual en primer grado, uso de amenaza o fuerza, y debe permanecer en el registro de ofensor sexual de por vida. Hasta el día de hoy, los expedientes reflejan una fecha de elegibilidad para libertad condicional del 29 de agosto del 2025. Hay testimonio de víctima en este caso, hay un plan de responsabilidad para el ofensor, el cual ha sido revisado y demuestra que el ofensor ha completado los siguientes programas: Good Intention, Bad Choices, programa de ofensor sexual a corto plazo, Voices, y trabaja como conserje. Utiliza el Centro Colaborativo Estatal de Evaluación de Riesgos del Ofensor. El puntaje general del ofensor en el RTE cae dentro del bajo de riesgo de reincidencia. Utilizando el Static 99R, el puntaje general del ofensor para reincidencia sexual cae dentro del rango bajo. Mr. Morel-Vargas, esta es su oportunidad para expresarle a la Junta por qué piensa se le debe considerar libertad condicional. Puede comenzar.
Gracias. Buen día, gracias por la oportunidad. Me gustaría, si es posible, que me den la oportunidad de poder no mostrar con palabras en realidad quién yo soy, sino con hechos, que me den la oportunidad de integrarme a la sociedad y yo con poder cumplir los propósitos, los sueños y la meta con lo cual vine, si es la voluntad de Dios y si está al alcance de ellos, para yo poder seguir creciendo como persona y dar la mejor versión de mí y poder aclarar con mis acciones y mi diario vivir lo que en realidad yo soy.
Un momento, por favor. Good morning, and thank you for the chance. I would like, if possible, to show with facts, not words, the type of person that I am. I want to be able to be able to do what I came to do in this country, to finish my goals and accomplish everything that I wanted to do, and to be able to grow as a person as well. Continúe.
En la vida enfrentamos momentos difíciles y para mí este ha sido uno de los momentos más difíciles, pero no me voy a quedar, no me voy a rendir. Voy a seguir caminando, voy a seguir luchando en la vida y seguir mostrando y pedirle a Dios que me dé la fuerza y la oportunidad de que yo pueda, como repito, con mis acciones, mostrar el ser humano que yo soy y poder algún día traer la claridad, la verdad de una posible confusión en mi situación.
There are difficult situations in life, and these have been very difficult to me. But I want to keep going. I want to keep fighting. I ask God to give me the strength to keep going and to be able to show with actions the type of person that I am.
Mi familia, padre y madre y hermano están en la República Dominicana. Aquí tengo solo primos. Y ha sido un poco difícil esa situación, el no poder ver a mi familia, mi padre y madre y hermano. Eso ha sido uno de los momentos más difíciles. Y si me da la oportunidad, me gustaría para aprovechar cada segundo de lo que me quede aquí en la tierra, junto a mi familia. Gracias.
It's been very hard for me because my family is in the Dominican Republic. My dad, my mom, my brother, my cousins are the only ones here in this country, in Connecticut. It is difficult not being able to be with my family, and I would like to have every second that I have left, be able to spend it with my family. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Morel-Vargas. We're going to ask you questions we prepared from the documents that we've read, and then we will discuss your case and give you our decision after we hear from the Office of Victim Services. We're going to begin this morning with my colleague, Mr. Cizauskas.
Gracias, señor Morel-Vargas, por sus comentarios. Vamos a tomarnos turno en el día de hoy para hacerle una cierta cantidad de preguntas debido a, en referencia a lo que hemos leído acerca de su caso. Luego de esto, deliberaremos y le daremos la decisión en el caso.
Gracias.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I read that you deny that you committed this crime and claim that the sexual encounter was consensual. Do you still feel this way?
Yo leí que usted negó el haber cometido esta ofensa y usted menciona que el encuentro sexual era consensual. ¿Usted todavía sigue diciendo esto?
Positivo, señor.
That's positive.
According to the reports, you texted the victim the day after this happened and said, I ask that you forgive me. I know that you were with me without wanting to be. Why did you text that?
Usted, de acuerdo al reporte, usted le envió un mensaje de texto a la víctima el día después diciéndole que le pedía que lo perdonara y que usted sabía que ella estuvo con usted sin ella haber querido. ¿Por qué usted envió este mensaje?
Sí, señor, positivo, le respondo. El mensaje no lo mandé corrido, sino una palabra tras de otra. Tú estuviste conmigo sin querer, yo también. Solo fue por sexo, sabemos que no fue por amor. Porque yo le había explicado antes por teléfono que tenía una relación. Y ahí fue que sucedió. Le dije perdón por no haberle dicho de mi relación.
Yes, I want to explain to you the message that I sent was because I was telling her that I knew that we were together just to have sex, not because we were in love. And I was asking her to forgive me because I never told her that I was in a relationship.
There are reports that the victim had injuries that are consistent with her version of the incident. How do you explain her injuries?
La víctima tenía ciertas lesiones. ¿Cómo usted explica estas lesiones que ella tenía?
Sí, señor, me mostraron la foto cuando fui a la policía, yo mismo fui a la policía, y cuando me mostraron la foto, yo no tuve ningún tipo de explicación, como tampoco ahora la tengo. No puedo responder nada porque sería como yo inventarme algo. No tengo ninguna explicación cuando me mostraron esa foto de los golpes que esa persona tenía.
Yes, they showed me the pictures when I went to the police station, and I have no explanation for those injuries. For me to answer that will be making something up because I cannot explain that.
There are reports and the documents I reviewed that stated that the victim was intoxicated when this took place. Do you believe she was intoxicated?
En los documentos de los reportes menciona que la víctima estaba intoxicada. ¿Usted entiende que ella estaba intoxicada?
No entiendo que estaba intoxicada, todo lo contrario. Cuando yo llegué, como yo no soy tomador, yo le dije, eso, yo no tomo eso, tiene mucho alcohol. Y ella dijo, sí, yo no me tomé una de esas y la dejó aparte. Nosotros duramos horas y horas hablando como dos personas bien maduros y tomamos la decisión como a las 2 horas y media de ir a su casa. Una persona intoxicada no hace eso. Ella misma guió, ella misma entró a su casa, se duchó, me dijo, espérame ahí en esta habitación, se duchó. No hablé alto porque hay personas aquí y una persona intoxicada no actúa así. No, en ningún momento estaba intoxicada.
I don't think that she was intoxicated. I am not a drinker, and I mentioned to her about the drink, and then she only had she put it away. Then we were talking for hours. I would say about 2.5 hours, and then we went to her house. She took a shower, and we were talking. She even said, "Just keep your voice low because someone can hear us. Someone that is intoxicated is not going to do that."
You told the police that you had to help her get into the house because she was unable to open the door. But why couldn't she open the door to her house?
Se le mencionó a la policía que usted tuvo que ayudarla porque ella no podría abrir la puerta. ¿Por qué entonces usted tuvo que ayudarla a abrir la puerta para entrar a su casa?
La palabra ayudar a abrir la puerta nunca yo la pronuncié ahí en ningún momento. Yo dije ayudar a abrir la puerta. Esta persona me dio la llave y me dijo abre la puerta detrás de la casa. Tenía llave de colores amarilla, roja y verde. Ella me la dio ella a mí, no que yo ayudé porque ella no podía abrirla.
I never said that I had to help her to open the door. She gave me the keys to open the door. They were different keys of different colors, green, yellow.
You completed the sex offender program while you were incarcerated. What did you learn that can help you when you were released into the community?
Se completó el programa de defensor sexual en la facilidad. ¿Qué usted aprendió que lo pueda ayudar cuando usted salga nuevamente a la comunidad?
En realidad fue difícil hacer un programa que, sabiendo que yo no participé, no soy responsable de lo que sucedió, no soy culpable, pero aún así aprendí tantas cosas, a cuidarme más, y no solamente eso, sino a respetar un matrimonio, a respetar un hogar y a mantenerme distanciado de todo lo que me pueda causar problemas, lo más distanciado posible, y tener dominio propio de no cometer infidelidad.
It was difficult for me to do the program knowing that I am not responsible for what happened. I am not guilty. But regardless of that, I was able to learn that I need to be more careful and that I have to respect marriage and that I have to respect your home and to stay away from problems and also not to be unfaithful.
How do you think you've changed during this incarceration?
¿Cómo usted piensa que usted ha cambiado durante este periodo de encarcelación?
Wow. Aquí hay dos oportunidades, o cambia uno o se pone peor, y gracias a Dios he tomado la decisión de cambiar, debido a que es un lugar que no le deseo a nadie, bien difícil, está aislado de todo, y el cambio se va produciendo con el día a día, en el diario vivir, incluso ya con este momento aquí hoy, es una decisión más para yo aportar más a mi vida, para seguir cambiando, para no tener que presentarme otra vez en momentos como este, que se te hacen bien difícil, bien doloroso. Entonces eso me va enseñando a madurar y a tomar decisiones más sabias.
Well, this place you either change or you become worse. But I have made the decision to change, and this has been very difficult. This is a difficult place to be, and you change on a daily basis. And I have to keep changing to be a better person. And this is a very difficult, and I am more mature, and I have gained more wisdom.
I read that you completed the Voices program. Can you tell us what you learned from the Voices program?
No escuché, por favor.
El programa de Voices, usted lo completo, ¿me podría decir qué aprendió?
Oh, sí, en Voices aprendí, fueron mucho material de apoyo que había ahí, pero sobre todo se aprende la conducta y el comportamiento. Viene siendo relacionado como la psicología, que es la conducta y el comportamiento humano. Y hay muchas variedades ahí sobre el comportamiento humano, el cual, si una persona lo pone en práctica, puede llegar bastante lejos.
Yes, I learned a lot during the Voices program. There is a lot of support material, and there's a lot of psychology and human behavior that if you put all those things into practice, you can become a better person.
Y me aconseja a mí, el programa de Voices, me da consejo sobre si una persona está viviendo este tipo de situación o otra como la que yo he enfrentado, o cualquier tipo de decisión, a saber la ayuda que debe buscar.
It also gives you advice for people who are going through the same situation that I am going through, how to look for help.
En el sentido, me refiero en el sentido que te da como una oportunidad, no simplemente de víctima, ni de victimario, te da una oportunidad como ser humano a aprender cosas nuevas.
¿Una oportunidad como ser humano qué?
Que no solamente el programa de Voices mira a uno como víctima o victimario, sino como ser humano, llenándote de oportunidad, el conocimiento.
The Voices program gives you the opportunity of giving you like an opportunity, not only for victims, just as a human being.
Can you talk about your release plan? Where do you want to live and work when you're released into the community?
¿Me puede hablar de su plan de liberación? ¿Dónde usted piensa trabajar y vivir cuando salga a la comunidad?
No tengo la seguridad de dónde trabajaría, porque como le dije, en Connecticut aquí no tengo ese tipo de relación, pero sí haría el mayor esfuerzo de trabajar en el área que yo estudié, que es la electricidad. Es el área que yo estudié y el área que me gustaría trabajar. Pero debido a mi situación y a mi condición, yo tomaría cualquier oportunidad que me permitiría trabajar.
I am not sure where I am going to work because I have no relationships here in Connecticut, but I would like to work in the electrical field. That's what I went to school for. But because of my situation right now, I am willing to take any opportunity to work.
What about, where will you live?
¿Dónde usted viviría?
Como le acabo de decir, en Connecticut no tengo ningún tipo de familiar. Entonces yo ya estaría a cargo de la institución si me concede dónde yo estar. Pero por ahora, por este momento, en Connecticut no tengo a nadie. Simplemente, como le dije, mi familia, los primos están en Nueva York y en norte de Carolina. Pero en este estado no tengo a nadie.
I do not have no family here in Connecticut, so I don't know if the facility will help me to find a place to live. But my cousins are in New York and North Carolina.
You haven't expressed any remorse or apology to the victim for having gone through any of this. Is there anything else you wanted to add about what the victim has gone through?
Usted no ha mencionado ninguna disculpa o remordimiento cuando se refiere a la víctima. ¿Hay algo más que usted quisiera añadir en cuanto a esto?
Sé que ustedes están haciendo tu trabajo, la pregunta duele, pero cuando dice remordimiento o algo, significa que yo le hice algo. Y no, remordimiento tengo hacia mi esposa porque le fallé, pero a la víctima, yo sí en el fondo yo perdoné, pero no puedo decir que yo tengo remordimiento de que le hice algo, todo lo contrario. Yo admiro a esa persona porque ella a mí en ningún momento me trató de manera mal ni me habló mal, al igual que yo a ella. Entonces el remordimiento que puedo tener hacia ella no es válido si lo digo aquí, porque en realidad no sucedió una situación que me ayudara a ella yo tener remordimiento hacia ella por algo que yo haya hecho. Todo el contrario, el remordimiento que yo tengo ha sido más con mi familia, que tuve que pedir perdón porque estoy aquí y he dejado a mi familia sola. A la víctima, todo lo contrario. La familia de la víctima me llamó a mí y me pidieron ellos perdón por no ayudarme en el caso. La familia de ella fue que me pidió perdón. Y no tengo nada en contra de esa muchacha, no le deseo ningún mal, le deseo lo mejor.
Por favor. I know that you are doing your job, but when you talk about remorse, it is like me saying that I did something to her and I did not. If anything, I admire this person. The only remorse that I have is for my family, especially for my wife. And because I left my family alone, those are the ones that I feel remorse for. The victim's family, they call me here and they apologize to me for not helping me. But I do not feel remorse because I didn't do it. I feel remorse towards my family and I wish her the best in life. I don't have anything against her.
Quizá se oye muy arrogante de mi parte, no es mi intención. No es mi intención decir esto como arrogante o como que no tengo sentimiento. Todo lo contrario. Si yo estoy aquí, simplemente quiero ser honesto y mantener mi palabra y no buscar aparentarle algo a ustedes para que me den la libertad. Estoy aquí con la honestidad suficiente, no privando en arrogante y orgulloso, sino con la mayor honestidad y transparencia posible, porque a usted yo le puedo mentir, pero yo sé que Dios me está viendo en estos momentos.
I don't want to sound arrogant and I don't want to sound like I'm someone with no feelings at all, but I am here to be honest, to be transparent. I do not want to lie to you. I could lie to you and just say something that you want to hear so I can get parole, but I want to be honest with you because I do not want to lie.
Y sé que puedo parecer muy orgulloso, muy arrogante, pero si así yo voy a obtener mi libertad, creo que me engañaría a mí mismo.
I know I sound like a person with pride and arrogance, but I do not want to lie to myself.
Okay, thank you, sir. Those are all the questions I have today. I'm going to see if my colleagues have questions for you.
Esas son todas las preguntas que tengo para usted. Voy a ver si mis colegas tienen preguntas.
So, Mr. Vargas, why do you think the jury found you guilty?
Mr. Vargas, ¿por qué usted entonces piensa que el jurado lo encontró culpable?
Bueno, pienso por la manera que me juzgaron. Es un decir, no tengo conocimiento de esto. Simplemente estoy diciendo lo que yo pienso de la manera que me juzgaron. Me hicieron ver como lo peor y no me dieron la oportunidad ni se investigó mi situación. Digo, eso es lo que pienso. No estoy afirmando eso, según la pregunta que ella me hizo.
I think because the way that I was judged, I have no knowledge, but they made it seem like I was the worst and I didn't have a chance to defend myself.
You had an attorney, didn't you?
¿Usted tenía un abogado? ¿No tenía usted un abogado?
Tenía un abogado de 3 años y detective, pero nunca hicieron la que yo le decía, que le dije que había cámara, que buscaran los videos, que le di mi registro de teléfono para que vieran la llamada que
That was a
hicimos.
yes or no question.
I had a lawyer for 3 years, but they never did what I told them to do.
I think you were found guilty because there was evidence and the victim was entirely credible, and you changed your story multiple times. When you returned to the party, you told them several different stories, and then you lied to the police. That's why I think you were found guilty, because you were responsible for this very violent assault.
Yo entiendo que lo encontraron culpable porque encontraron evidencia y la versión de la víctima fue creíble. Además de que usted cambió su historia en diferentes ocasiones, también después que usted regresó nuevamente a la fiesta, le dio una historia diferente.
What is the status of your marriage, sir?
¿Cuál es el estatus de su matrimonio, señor?
El estado de mi matrimonio es que mi esposa en estos momentos se encuentra en Puerto Rico. No estamos divorciados.
My wife is in Puerto Rico at the moment, but we're not divorced.
Are you in communication?
¿Está usted en comunicación?
No mucho, ella habla más con mi familia. No estamos hablando mucho, porque ahora mismo yo estoy tomando más otro asunto sobre nuestra relación para buscar ayuda, así es que vamos a regresar.
We are not talking too much right now, mostly with my family, but we have talked about finding help if we want to go back together.
Why would you choose not to use protection and potentially risk your wife's health by having sex outside of marriage?
¿Por qué usted decidió no tener protección cuando hizo esto, poniendo en riesgo la salud de su esposa, teniendo sexo sin protección?
Buena pregunta, y de verdad que hasta ahora yo mismo me lo pregunto y no puedo cambiar las cosas ya, pero yo me arriesgué y arriesgué a mi esposa y también no debía hacer eso siendo casado. Yo sí hice mal. Aquí yo hice mal. Yo no debí tener una relación fuera de matrimonio. Yo hice bastante mal y mucho menos sin cuidarme.
Yes, that's a good question. And I asked myself the same. I cannot change what happened, but I did put her at risk and my own self. It was very wrong of what I did having a relationship outside of my marriage.
It wasn't a relationship, sir. And you were willing to impregnate this woman that you met the same night that you met her, while married and the father of other children. Very poor judgment. So when you say to my colleague that you've gained wisdom, there in the facility. Can you be more specific?
Usted estuvo haciendo esto, estuvo básicamente dispuesto a que esta persona quedara embarazada, aún así teniendo su propia relación. Cuando usted menciona que usted adquirió sabiduría y conocimiento mientras estaba en prisión, ¿puede ser un poco más específico a qué se refiere?
Sí, me refiero a que a veces las cosas no son como se ven. Se refieren a uno tener ese control, ese dominio propio de mantenerse firme en el respeto, ya sea respeto como hijo, respeto como esposo, respeto como ser humano. A este tipo de sabiduría me referí.
Yes, that sometimes things are not like how they look, and to be respectful as a human being, as a husband, and with your family.
It's a good lesson to learn. I would have hoped you'd have learned it a long time before this.
Eso es una muy buena lección para aprender. Me hubiese gustado que usted hubiese aprendido esto antes.
You have a standing criminal protective order against you for the rest of your life. Do you understand what that means?
Usted tiene una orden de protección activa en su contra por el resto de su vida. ¿Usted entiende lo que esto significa?
Sí, entiendo y me explicó, la señora aquí me explicó.
Yes, I understand, and it was explained to me.
You seem not to understand what it means for people to consent to participate in sexual activity with another person. Can you tell me what you understand consent means?
Me da la impresión que usted no ha entendido el significado de cuando las personas necesitan dar consentimiento para estar con otra persona. ¿Me puede decir usted qué usted entiende por dar consentimiento?
Consentimiento cuando dos personas están de mutuo acuerdo en elaborar o hacer algo. Cuando los dos están de acuerdo completamente.
That means when two people agree completely to do something.
Consent can be withdrawn at any point in the sexual activity as it begins. Do you understand that?
¿Usted entiende que el consentimiento puede cambiar en cualquier momento durante un acto sexual? Puede cambiar en cualquier momento.
Claro que sí entiendo eso.
I do understand that.
Do you understand that you are responsible for knowing the age of anyone you're going to have sexual contact with to ensure that they are of legal age to consent to sexual contact?
¿Usted está consciente que usted es responsable de saber la edad de cualquier persona que usted tiene un encuentro sexual para saber que ellos tienen edad suficiente para dar consentimiento?
Claro, señor.
Do you understand that someone who is intoxicated is incapable of consenting to sexual contact under the law?
¿Usted entiende que una persona que está intoxicada no está apta para dar consentimiento?
También entiendo eso. Sí.
I also understand that.
Does?
I also understand that. Okay.
You have 9 months left on your sentence. What kinds of programs can you participate in there at the facility to continue, as you said, to grow as a person and prepare yourself to come back out into the community and not reoffend?
Que le quedan 9 meses en su sentencia. ¿Qué tipo de programas usted piensa que puede participar en la facilidad que lo pueda ayudar a prepararse mejor cuando usted salga a la comunidad y no regresar nuevamente?
Yo estoy haciendo un programa de los servicios cristianos. Eso es lo que más me ha ayudado y estudio particular que me envían de la calle. Porque no tengo adicción de droga ni de alcohol y mayormente son los programas que hay Estoy haciendo esos programas de estudio que me mandan de la calle, programas cristianos.
I am doing some Christian services, some programs, and they have been very helpful because I have no addiction or anything like that. Most of the programs here are for addiction, but I am doing those Christian programs and they are
Y
helpful.
There's a fatherhood program there in the facility that you really should consider taking, especially because you have a son who's coming into his teenage years, and you're going to need to be able to explain your incarceration and your crime to your son so that he doesn't go out and treat women the way that you treated this victim. Fatherhood would be a good program for you. There's also New Thoughts, which I think could be really helpful for you getting some insight into your decision making.
Hay un programa que se llama Fatherhood, que es de paternidad, que lo podría ayudar ya que usted tiene un hijo adolescente. Lo ayudaría a poder explicarle a él por qué usted está en prisión y el crimen que cometió y que lo ayude a no hacerle esto a otra persona. También está el programa New Thoughts, que también le podrían dar mejor entendimiento.
You will be required on probation to complete problem sexual behavior treatment in the community. And I hope you use that opportunity and treatment to move towards acceptance of responsibility for your crime.
Usted también va a estar requerido a completar el programa de conducta sexual afuera en la comunidad bajo libertad provisional y yo espero que ese programa lo ayude a moverse, a tener aceptación acerca de lo que usted hizo.
Mr. Rodriguez, any questions?
I don't have any questions, Madam Chair. Both of you have asked quite a few questions.
So at this point, we're going to turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services, and Mr. Vargas, you are not to speak.
Vamos a mover la parte de la oficina de las víctimas, Mr. Morel-Vargas, usted no puede hablar en este momento.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, panel. I did speak with the victim in this case who expressed extreme fear of the inmate and that she wishes for him to do all of his time that he was sentenced to. Thank you.
Yo hablé con la víctima en este caso, quien expresó un miedo extremo al ofensor y ella desea que él haga todo el tiempo al cual fue sentenciado.
All right, at this point, we're going to discuss. Please do not interrupt. Mr. Sosowskis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Morel-Vargas is 42 years old. He's here for a sexual assault first, a very serious crime. Reading through the details of this is very concerning and became even more concerning today when we spoke to Vargas, and he continues to not acknowledge any of what the victim has said.
And what the jury found him guilty of.
Yeah. And, even more concerning is that when we get to the sex offender program, that he didn't really seem to gain anything out, regardless of his claim of innocence, he certainly could have gained some information about knowing when someone is intoxicated and consent, and didn't raise any of those issues about what he learned from the sex offender program. He just talked about being unfaithful, which, was a part of this, but not related to sex offense, And then the same kind of thing with the Voices program. When he described what he learned from Voices, I don't hear anything about what the victim has gone through. Regardless of his stance of claiming innocence, you would think there'd be some compassion or some empathy for what the victim has gone through. Victim has had to retell the story to several people, in trial, and we're here again. And clearly the victim has been affected by this, and he doesn't seem to be able to even acknowledge any of that. Even when I prompted him to see if there was any kind of remorse he can show toward the victim or any kind of apology, regardless of his stance, I think there's still some space that he could do that. And And he wasn't able to. He just expressed his remorse and apology to his own family and not bring himself to any kind of acknowledgement of anything the victim might have gone through. So I just, even though he's taking these programs and he hasn't had any disciplinary reports, he's ready to go. I just don't see a level of change, you know, that I would like to see from someone after spending this amount of time incarcerated for such a serious crime. So I'm concerned about the nature and circumstances of this and the impact it's had on the victim. So that's where I'm at right now. I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say.
I share your concern. You know, this is a crime that occurred in 2015. He took it to trial, which was his right. He was not convicted until January of 2019. So he's been incarcerated for a significant period of time. He completed the short track program in April of 2022. And then when he was evaluated by the Connection in October of 2024, they still point out very limited insight into his offense behaviors, and still denies that the sexual contact was non-consensual. And, you know, I go back to, you know, if you're telling the truth, you only have one story to remember, and it's well documented from people who are at the party before and after he left with the victim and then returned and, you know, told people he dropped her in an alleyway, and then telling others that he mixed up a sugar water drink for her because she was sick and was in her house, and so on and so forth. So I agree. I'm deeply concerned about a lack of change for someone who has been serving, you know, a pretty significant sentence, which I think was truly appropriate for the nature of the crime. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm basically in the same place as the two of you. I was concerned with, I mean, I thought he could have shared more about what he could have gotten out of his attending the sex offender treatment program. That at least would have, you know, told us that how he would have avoided this kind of situation in the future, how he could, you know, just those things that he could have done in a more preparatory way to kind of not get in these kind of situations. But he's taken, you know, he took good intentions, bad choices, and he took programs that I think would give him those kinds of skills. And I didn't hear any of that reflection from him at all. In fact, his focus was really maintaining his innocence in all of this and not having done it. So I am not supporting his discretionary approval today.
So I have nature and circumstance, injury and impact, and inadequate evidence of offender's claims. Okay. So in the matter of Nuelito Morel-Vargas, inmate number 412725, there is a motion to deny parole for the following reasons: the nature and circumstance of your offense, the injury and impact caused to the victim, and an inadequate evidence of offender change. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Parole is denied.
You have enough to translate the deliberation?
Yes.
Mr. Morel-Vargas es adulto de 42 años, está convicto de agresión sexual en primer grado por este crimen es muy preocupante. Lo que más me preocupa en el día de hoy es que él no tomó responsabilidad de lo que la víctima dijo, a pesar de haber tomado el tratamiento de ofensión sexual. Él clama que es inocente. Me hubiese gustado que hubiese expresado más conocimiento en cuanto se trata acerca de dar consentimiento, pero más habló acerca de que, bueno, estuvo bien que hubiese sido infiel. También tomó el programa de Voices, pero no vi que habló acerca de la víctima, lo que ella pasó, y no haber expresado más compasión al respecto de cómo esta víctima ha sido afectada. Aún así, cuando se le preguntó acerca de mostrar remordimiento, él todavía mantiene, a pesar de que mantiene que es inocente, mencionó expresar remordimiento más hacia su familia que a la víctima. Él no tiene reportes de disciplina, pero no veo que hay un nivel de cambio. me preocupa las consecuencias a la víctima y el impacto a ella. Esto ocurrió en el año 2015. Él llevó su caso a juicio y no fue sentenciado hasta el año 2019, por lo que significa que lleva un largo periodo de prisión, lo que le daría más conocimiento acerca de mejor entendimiento de qué hizo. Él menciona que nunca hizo lo que sucedió, lo que la víctima dice que sucedió, y le dio diferentes historias a la familia de la víctima. Una persona que dice la verdad solamente tiene una historia que contar. Por lo tanto, en el día de hoy yo no me veo, no creo que debe darle la oportunidad para estar bajo libertad condicional.
Gracias.
En el caso de Nuelito Morel-Vargas, número 412725, hacemos una moción para negar su salida bajo libertad condicional por las siguientes razones. Daño e impacto a la víctima, naturaleza y circunstancias de la ofensa y evidencia inadecuada de cambio en el ofensor. Sería todo, señor Morel.
Gracias, que pase un buen día. Gracias por tu tiempo.
This concludes the parole hearing for Nuelito Morel-Vargas 412725. Fournier, I will take Lawson.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lawson, put a feet right to that room, please, and I'll be right with you.
Good morning, Mr. Lawson.
Good morning.
My name is Parole Officer Logan. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025, and this is a hearing of Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning, and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Nancy Turner, good morning.
Good morning, Robert Tazowski.
Good morning, panel member Rodriguez.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record.
Jamal Lawson, 436-443.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Jamal Lawson, 436-443. He is serving a sentence of 2 years and 6 months for a violation of probation. The underlying charge is larceny third, and he has an additional conviction for escape first. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of April 4th, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed voices. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Lawson, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Well, when I first got incarcerated, I wasn't myself, and I wasn't
ready for the community, but when I came into jail and I started being with talking to my family, talking to the people that actually care about me. And I wasn't when I first came to jail, I wasn't my head wasn't all the way there. You know what I mean? And coming to jail, I started relationships back with my mom. You know, I lost my dad. I'm ready to be in the community. I got a job, going back to school. I'm ready to get back to life. I'm ready to change my ways. And I had to sit down and really reflect on I wasn't doing bad only for me. You know, my mom was hurting, my nieces and nephews, my brothers, my family was hurting. And now, you know, I'm in here and it has an effect on me. And I just want to be in the community. Now's my time to shine and I'm ready for it. If you guys could just give me one more chance to prove to not only myself, but my mom and everybody that I can do it, I would really appreciate it. If you guys could just please give me one more shot.
So, Mr. Lawson, the question that was put to you is, why do you deserve parole?
Yes.
Not why you want it, but what have you done to prepare yourself to be successful when you're back in the community that would make us think you were suitable at this time for release?
Ask the questions. Can you ask it one more time?
So the question that the parole officer, Officer Logan, put to you is, why do you believe you deserve parole? Not why you want it. I mean,
I feel like I changed. I changed. I'm not the same person that I was not even 10 months ago. If you guys
Okay, well then why don't you be more specific and tell us how you've changed?
My anger, I'm not I used to be an angry individual. I'm not. Is that what you mean?
That's a start.
Yeah, I'm not an angry individual. I think before I make my actions, you know what I mean? I'm just ready. I'm ready to go home.
I think if we asked everybody there in the facility, every single person would say they're ready to go home.
No, yeah.
Nobody wants to be there. That's why it's prison.
No, yeah.
Because it's supposed to deter you from coming back.
Yeah.
From committing crimes that bring you back.
Yeah, I learned.
But why didn't you learn in your first year, after your first incarceration, or after your second incarceration? This is your third period of incarceration, sir.
Yeah, I wasn't. To be honest, I learned to not do the things that I was doing. You know, drugs.
Okay, all right. So let's move into the questions that we've prepared for you. And then we can maybe come to understand the change that you're referring to more thoroughly. So what was behind your anger?
Say that one more time.
What was behind your anger? Why were you angry?
Drugs, my sexuality.
Those made you angry?
Yeah, I wasn't I wasn't true to who I was. So I was acting out. You know what I mean? I wasn't I just wasn't me. I wasn't comfortable with my skin. So I would use drugs, you know what I mean? I would just lash out on people. It was.
What was your drug of choice, sir?
Meth, weed, drinking.
So you haven't taken a substance abuse program. Have you ever done treatment out in the community?
Yeah, well, not really. I feel like coming into jail, that right there was enough for a wake up. It was because I never been so experience a long time without drugs being around me. So like when I was in the community, like it was just there. You know what
Well,
I
it's
mean?
there in the
So
prison.
no, I learned like I stay away from the drugs, the drinking.
All
I
right.
stay away
So,
from all
Mr.
that.
Lawson, my takeaway is that you were using drugs, the ones you referenced, and alcohol
Yes.
to avoid your feelings.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So-
this go around, I know how to cope with it. You know what I mean? Without drugs. Like I can go day. I didn't know I could do that.
Do you believe that you have a problem with substances?
No.
So,
And the reason why I say that I don't have a problem is because I feel like when you do drugs and if you need it, you know what I mean? I don't need it. You know what I mean? I'm more like my mind is so much clearer now than it was 2 years ago.
okay. So what do you know about triggers, things, feelings, experiences, situations that might bring you back to using drugs?
Well, being here, there was a lot of triggers where I can like walk away. You know what I mean? I never knew how to walk away. I always
Okay, I'm not
was the-
asking you your coping skills. I'm asking you about what those triggers are.
Well, there were triggers like when people were like saying like the gay word or calling me a faggot. Like them was my triggers in the beginning.
Okay, not just while you're incarcerated, but out in the
But in
community
life,
as well.
yeah, in
Okay.
the world.
Right, so being
When people
disrespected.
being disrespected, like just like
Did you use drugs to cope with stress?
yeah. Yes.
We already understand that you were using them to sort of medicate away your bad feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern for you is because you haven't explored recovery and
I mean, I feel like
rehabilitation.
this is recovery. Sorry.
You haven't explored your addiction to substances. These are highly addictive substances that you're talking about. And you're clean, but you're not, you haven't engaged in recovery activities to help you
I mean,
with addressing triggers that could bring you back to substance use. Because honestly, Mr. Lawson, stress is a part of adult life. It's an everyday experience. Life is stressful. We have obligations and we have bills and we have relationships, and all of those things can be very stressful. Not to mention losses, grief, trouble with your boss, all of that. So how are you going to manage those very strong feelings when you're back in the community?
So I have a support system that supports me so well to where I'm not going back to that old life. You know what I mean? I have my mom, you know, my brothers, my significant other, that want to see me do right. That going back to school, getting a job, there's so many. Being an adult, you know what I mean? Like I'm ready to just like show everybody that I can actually do it.
Okay, so Mr. Lawson, you've been incarcerated now 2 years. You were sentenced in March of 2023, and you've taken one program. You haven't had any disciplinary issues, which is great. Have you had a job?
Yep, I worked at I was the head cook in Corrigan.
For how long?
For about 7 months, 8 months.
How long have you been at Brooklyn?
Since January, and then I was a server.
2024 or 2025?
2024.
Okay, so you've been in Brooklyn for a year.
No,
In
I've
2
been in
months.
Brooklyn. I've
Do
been
you
in
have a
Brooklyn
job?
since July. No, but I'm on the waiting list. I've been trying to get a job.
All right, and you're not in school,
No,
but you don't have a GED or a high school diploma, do you?
no.
Okay, so why aren't you in school?
I
if
have a
you're
high
not
school
working?
diploma. I mean, say that again?
Why aren't you in school if you aren't working?
So when I first came, I applied for school. Well, I applied for school in December, but I haven't.
Well, so why not in January or in July when you got to Brooklyn?
I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say that. I had my intentions was to do it when I got out.
I guess I'm trying to understand that because this is the perfect time. You'd have
No.
supports to, tutor
No,
you,
yeah.
and you
When I
have
feel
nothing
like
else filling your days.
when
At
I'm in the
least you'd be
world,
focused.
yeah, when I'm in the world, I feel like that's gonna motivate me. You know what I mean? Keep me busy, keep me grounded.
So, Mr. Lawson, you have a 20-year criminal history that spans 3 different states, and you are 33.
Yes.
That is a lot, sir.
No, it is.
You
It
know,
really
I
is.
mean, when we see somebody with a 20-year criminal history or is a multi-state offender, they're usually much older.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself is very concerning. And you were on probation. Why were you not successful on probation? Let's see if you understand why.
I was just, my mind was in the fog.
Because you were using drugs?
Yeah, I was. Well, it wasn't. I don't want to base this all on drugs. It's really my sexuality
Right.
that was
No, I'm
really.
trying to understand. So you were out on probation, under supervision, and
Yes.
using illegal substances, and not working. Your last job was
No.
2019.
Yes.
So
And I've been incarcerated since 2021. Since 2020. In Rhode Island and in here.
your offense date are 2021, 2022, and 2023. So
In
I don't
Rhode
know
Island.
that. But the point that I'm trying to make is you were on supervision and you were violating the contract with probation as well as more laws because you were using illegal substances, obviously not taking probation seriously. You've failed 3 out of 3 opportunities you've been afforded at community release. And that's why you got a flat sentence. Because why keep giving you probation when you clearly have no intention of complying and benefiting from how probation can help you? You have a standing criminal protective order against you until the year 2099. Can you tell me what you understand that means?
So it was for me. I was the victim in that case.
Yes. Okay.
Because I got hit by a car.
But that is with the victim of your current offense with the rental car. So it's just a lot, Mr. Lawson. And I'm hoping that you want more for your life. Do you have any goals?
Yes, I'm ready. I want to get my GED. I want to work. I want to I just lost my dad in September 11th, so I want to be around to see my nieces and my nephews grow. That old life that I had, I don't want it no more. I'm done with the past. I just want to leave all that behind me and start fresh.
Why were you trying to pass counterfeit checks?
To survive. I was just trying to survive. I didn't have the support system that I have now. I didn't have it I have it now.
I think
You know,
it's
just come.
more the case, Mr. Lawson, they were there and you hadn't healed the relationships enough for them to believe in you because you've been at this for 20 years.
Well, no, like my mom has 5 kids, so like she like I didn't feel the love that she's giving, like the love that she's giving me now. And I don't want to make that the excuse because, like you said, I'm 33 years old, but I didn't have the love that a normal person had. You know what I mean? Like I was like battling with my sexuality. Like that was a big part of my life. You know what I mean?
I
And
can appreciate that.
I wasn't comfortable enough to like us right here, like me not knowing you, like I wasn't comfortable even like speaking about it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like this
Well,
day and age right
society's
now,
come into greater acceptance.
and
So
right
it's
now,
less risky and,
yes,
you know, you're more free to be exactly who you are. But, you know, not having love in your life and needing money are not reasons to commit crimes and harm
no,
other
and then
people.
and I'm not making the excuse for what I did was wrong. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
my concern is the next time you fall on financial hard times, you don't think to go get a job. You think about how you can scam money.
no, but that's not what I want to do. I want to get a job. My as soon as I get out to the community, I want that's my goal is to get a job, go back to school, and
Okay, so
prove
where are you
to
going to do these things? Where are you going to do these things?
where.
Where are you going to get a job? Where are you going to go to school?
So
So you're coming before us looking for discretionary parole release, knowing that your end of sentence is in July and you don't have a release plan.
yeah,
You know,
so
we have a letter about a room that you're going to rent.
yeah, I have, and that right there alone is more reason of my happiness. Is I was like going from place to place to place, and I finally have a place of my own where I can be, and I have um a job like where people are like actually like trying to like get me there. I like when I tell you like my support is so good. This
Okay,
go
Mr.
around.
Lawson, I'm going to, move us on to specifics. What is the job that you have waiting for you?
Well, it's not actually like still in place, but they're trying to get me like it's like assisted living.
As a job?
Yeah.
Doing what?
Like just helping like so my best friend has a grandmother that like they need help like around the house, like cleaning and like doing
So
dishes.
being like a personal care assistant?
Yes.
Okay, but do you have the certificate to be a PCA?
No. But that's what they're trying to help me get. Like I'm trying to go to school and stuff.
But there's a point in life, Mr. Lawson, and at 33, you need to be taking responsibility for these things yourself. You've been sitting there since July without a job, without schooling, all this free time. You know, the expectation on our part is that you would come better prepared with a release plan instead of now telling us that it's a friend of a friend and they're working on it for you. What are you doing?
I mean, I feel like if I was in the community, I would be able to do it myself.
Okay, but you're there in the facility. What could you be doing to prepare yourself for your release?
I could be, like, you're right, I could be going to school. I could be.
But do you have a tablet?
Yes.
Okay, could you be looking up the requirements for a PCA? And looking at what kind of classes and where you could take them?
Yeah.
I mean, it's time that you were responsible for your life and your future. I'm so happy for you that you have support. I'm so happy for you that you have self-acceptance. Because those are fundamental things that are going to help you be successful. You're not fighting yourself. You got people in your corner. That's all great. But Mr. Lawson, you need a plan.
No, yes.
And you need to write it down. You need steps. You know, map out your first week you're home, the first month, what goals you're going to achieve. If you want to go to school, where do you go to register? What is the tuition cost? How are you going to pay for that? You know, all of this, you know, you obviously did some work to get this room for rent. It's just one piece of the puzzle, because you got to be able to pay your bills. You're going to want to have a cell phone, right?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
going to want to have internet access, right? None of that is free.
No, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you have people in your life that can help coach you. I'm very concerned about your abuse of substances and your choice to self-medicate feelings and life circumstances, because that's stuff that can come back on you if you don't have, wait a minute, if you don't have a bigger picture about what recovery looks like. Do you have anybody in your life who's living in recovery, has struggled with addiction, and is now actively clean and sober and working on it?
Can I be honest with you right now?
This
What
whole
opened my
hearing is about honesty.
What really opened my eyes was September 11th, 2024, when my dad had passed away on drugs. That right there was the biggest eye opener for me. Where
Good. I'm glad that you can appreciate.
And that right there made me feel like there's no drug in the world that I want to be on to where I'm gonna lose my life.
But it's not just about not wanting it, sir. I mean, addiction creeps up on you with recreation.
I understand that, but that right there was the eye opener to where I want no drugs.
Right. I get that.
I will never, me personally, I will never lay my eye on a drug. I don't care how bad. I don't want none of that. Seeing my dad not able to even go to my dad's funeral was the eye opener for me. Being incarcerated was the eye opener for me.
But you know, that's step one in recovery. It's coming to appreciate that it was harming you and that it has terrible consequences. But then there's lots to engage in to heal and to embrace.
That right there healed me. I don't want to ever see, I don't want a drug.
You know, addiction flourishes in arrogance. I hope you'll think about that. You cannot be arrogant in face of addiction.
No, yeah.
Because it will show you its strength. You know, I appreciate that you want new things for yourself in your life, Mr. Lawson. And I hope you can appreciate that this is a huge ask on your part of us. And, you know, what I've heard so far, I lacking the confidence in the thought that you are suitable for parole release at this time. But I'm sure my colleagues have questions for you, so I'll listen carefully.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure I have a whole lot of questions because the chair covered a lot of ground, but I share her concerns about your minimization of the impact of addiction. Because as she shared with you, life has its own set of stresses.
Yes.
And you've struggled with those stresses.
Yes.
Whether it was your sexual identity or whether it was your lack of work, the loss of your father, which is going to continue, by the way, that feeling of loss is going to continue for you.
Yes.
And also the added stressors of being outside which is different than being where you are.
Where I am, yeah.
So I share her concerns that you're really taking this lightly. And I mean, you didn't score high, but you clearly laid out that when you're feeling less than what you feel you are, you have a tendency to kind of lean towards that. And those things can still happen, even though I agree that we've grown in terms of our acceptability of individual sexuality. Not everybody has grown.
Yes.
And you still may face many of those challenges on the outside. And I would also have liked to see a little bit more effort on figuring out a stronger recovery plan for yourself.
Yes.
That really, and it's good that you have support on the outside, because that's going to be very necessary for you.
Yes.
But that really kind of addresses having someone that understands the addiction process, that understands what happens when you're in those places where you end up wanting to go to use.
Yes.
And it's insidious, right? It happens sometimes, and you do it. It only takes one time to get started, right?
No, yes.
So I share that same concern. And it impacts my thinking around your suitability. So what do you think you can do? Have you heard of C-CAR? Have you heard of, even though you haven't taken an addiction services program, have you heard of that kind of a program? It's in the prisons, and it helps with it helps with recovery. You're into July, from what I can see. I mean, you still have some time to kind of put some things together for yourself that will really help to provide a real protection for you. You know, to be able to get you through those very difficult times, living out on your own in an apartment, all the things that you're going to need, the searching for work, and you're going to have to take that on yourself, because not everybody's going to want to do that for you anyway.
Yeah.
At some point, somebody's going to tell you,
No, you're right.
Mr. Lawson, you're 33 years old. It's time you kind of, act like you got to act and do what you got to do as an adult, a responsible adult. So I'm kind of, I share that with you because I want to say that's kind of where I'm at this moment. I really think you need a much stronger recovery plan, and that there's still some time available to you to kind of help put that together for yourself. Because I saw the other letters of support that you got, and I read the Doc Foundation information, but that's a training only if you're accepted.
Yes.
And you haven't been accepted to that.
Yes.
And those kind of rejections may also impact you as well. The rejection of your past. You have an extensive criminal history. You left a lot of bad stuff in the past, right?
Yes.
That's also going to impact you. So for me, I mean, I think you need a little bit more time to get yourself together and really put a strong plan together for yourself, utilizing what you have. You have a tablet. C-CAR is on your tablet, by the way.
Yes.
So it's my understanding it's a yellow icon on your tablet. You can go into that and begin to ask about a recovery coach, sponsorship, where are your programs. So you just kind of get yourself hooked up before you're out. I believe you're flat set, you want to do this as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Right? Even though you will be doing some discharge planning, I saw that as part of your OAP, is discharge planning. Right? So it's part of that.
Yes, sir.
You need to kind of take a look at that. All right. We really want to, make sure that you do well. We don't want to see you back here. We want to see you do well. All right.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Lawson. I don't really have any questions for you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Sosowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple of things. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, I read through the incident at the hotel with the car, and it was something like on a movie. It was just so chaotic. It's hard to believe that the person that was involved in all of that is you, because you sound much better today. Like, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah, from reading that story, it's something else, really, what was going on. And there was drugs involved, I'm sure, and other things. And that didn't sound like a very healthy relationship for anybody. So I'm glad to see you, at least today, presenting in front of us as a clearer thinking person. That's obvious to me after reading your history and what happened on that crazy day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're headed in the right direction, my friend. I can say that, okay? Just based on the way you present today, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Where is this apartment at? What town in Connecticut is it?
Winston?
Winstead?
Yes.
Are your family in that area?
Yeah, yes,
Okay, so you know people in that part of the state. It's pretty far out there from,
yes.
okay. I'm familiar with that area and there are a lot of drugs there. So it's not a place that is, you're gonna be secluded away from that problem. But there's also a lot of recovery, like my colleagues have talked about. You have a lot of places in Torrington and Winstead that can be supportive. You need to research that.
Okay.
I would encourage you also, you're talking about your GED. You should know where that is in Winstead. You should already have that information, thinking about September and starting working on it. If you're serious about changing your life and turning things around, like my colleagues have already said, you start researching Torrington and Winstead. They're right next to each other. Both of them have all kinds of resources that can help.
Okay.
As far as recovery, AA meetings, all kinds of things. GED programs, adult education. There's a lot of stuff. Go ahead.
I went to AA the other day
Okay,
for the
good.
first time.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that.
Okay, so this,
yeah.
you should be looking in Winstead and Torrington, where is there AA meeting that is like walking distance from where the apartment is? There,
Okay.
most churches have church basement programs, there's community centers. You should be able to find a place because you may not have a car right away. Somewhere where
Yes.
you can at least, someone you can call that understands what you're going through. And if you have an urge or you run into old friends or something happens and you feel like this is heading in the wrong direction, you have to have somebody you can call before you. So that's when we're talking about a relapse prevention plan. Can't just put yourself out there and say, I want to do better, I'm going to do better. We understand that, but that's not enough. It really isn't, because we see people come back and back and back. I mean, it's really evidenced by your record, what I'm saying. You know, if you look at your criminal history. Yeah. All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck, sir. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Sosowskis. Okay, Mr. Lawson, I think we're done with questions. We're gonna talk to you and we're gonna talk amongst ourselves and then get back to you. So just a few minutes.
Thank you.
So my records indicate, thank you. My records indicate that Mr. Lawson's probation began December 10th of 2021. And the violation is of record August of 2022. And his escape is in November of 2023. So he wasn't comfortable or didn't choose to stay at the halfway house. He presents that his life circumstances have changed. He presents that he is off substances, that he has supports, that he has a place to go to. He wants better for himself, and I commend that. This lifestyle, if you will, that he's been living, where he's, been on a tour of correctional facilities in the Northeast, is ridiculous. We've progressed some. I mean, it's really quite a trade-off. So he had both in Massachusetts and Rhode Island assaults involving dangerous weapons in 2015, 2016. So it looks like he's moved off of some of that behavior, but that also corresponded with his picking up convictions for drug possession. So it was a trade-off not in the direction that we would have hoped for him. I have concerns. I with all the time that he's had on his hands, that he didn't come prepared with a stronger release plan for us today. He does have a place to go, but what I heard from you, I think, and what I feel is concerns about the isolated nature of Winstead. You know, I don't know what their bus service is, but so oftentimes we hear that as an excuse for people not getting a job, not going to school, returning to drug use, because they're in a place that is not one, as some of our metropolitan areas are, in the state that is robust with recovery and reentry centers. So that, to me, ends up being a bit of a risk, even though it's potentially stable housing. We are talking about 3 months before he's end of sentence. We're starting April next week. Honestly, I came in with a denial because of the criminal history and the lack of programming. And, you know, I could support that with a lack of a release plan that I'm hearing about today and read about, gaps in it. I think I'm more concerned about Mr. Lawson going out without guidance, without any measure of accountability, that parole could be both, you know, like guardrails. We talk about it as being guardrails to help you get on the path that you want to be on and moving forward, instead of backsliding into drug use, criminal behavior. So I guess what I'm saying is that given the 3-month difference, I would be willing to grant Mr. Lawson that time on discretionary parole to get his life and his issues in order. You know, part of me feels like he could use that time to do it in the facility as well. So I'm interested in your thoughts, panel members.
Yeah. Well, I shared my concerns as I talked with him.
But we're talking about an individual who was using meth and doesn't see himself as having an addiction.
Right.
And that is a really powerful substance that catches you by the throat and does not let go.
It is. And also the fact that of the location where he is going to be living, you know, you're right, it is in a rural area. It's in a place where you don't have a lot of real accessibility to transportation. And we do get a lot of, I mean, who will use that as a way of saying, I can't get to this place, I can't get to that place. But I was also concerned that there is only 3 months left in his sentence, and he sounds good today, much better than what I read. You know, I would be willing to consider discretionary parole today to give him the opportunity. Well, he's going to have some time before he's out anyway to start setting up his recovery plan and work on that and try to have some of that prepared before he comes out, to know those areas that my colleague shared with you may be existing in the area where you're going to be moving. And that you work significantly with a parole officer to really help in some of those other areas, that you use that person as a true resource.
I think my misgivings here, Mr. Lawson is an incredibly personable individual.
Yeah.
He's very likable. So he has that going for him. But what I'm struggling with is we didn't hear substance from him. you know, he's had a really powerful aha moment and tremendous loss in his life, which I'm very sorry about.
Thank you.
But I'm really frustrated with him failing to come here with a release plan, given that he has been doing absolutely nothing since July. And I don't understand it. I really don't. And even his opening statement seemed to miss the boat about, you know, anything other than why he wanted to be released. So anyway, I'm just, you know, because I know you said he sounds really good today, but he doesn't. He's a personable person. I think he'd sound good on just about anything. He wasn't on meth.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, the fact that he came here without, you know, the level of preparedness. I mean, he is 33, but emotionally, he is not. He is a very young man. And he's got a lot to sort out. So, you know, maybe parole can, you know, with the right officer, help him with that. Get off on the right foot. That's all it is. At 3 months, that's all it can be.
Yeah.
So yeah, Winston is right next to Torrington, a big recovery community in Torrington. Lots of services and resources.
And I appreciate that, but we're hearing from a person who doesn't believe he has a problem.
Well, that's the
That
bigger
he's
issue.
just not going to do it, and
Yeah.
he doesn't understand how, you know.
That's my
his
concern is that he
triggers
hasn't, he
and,
didn't come here today. He said, well, this is what I learned about CCAR on my tablet. I've been to 10 AA meetings and this is where I said I'm going to go to AA every Wednesday night. This is where the GED program is in Winston. That's the kind of stuff I want
But I
to
can see where his thinking he wouldn't do that because he doesn't see it as an issue.
But he went to an AA meeting inside.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, you know, who knows why, but you
But
know,
those-
it's the first step.
That's the stuff that would make this a lot easier of a decision
Mm-hmm.
for us. You know, if we could have heard, yeah, I know I don't have a car and a driver's license. I'm gonna be isolated where I'm at, not having a lot of support. It's in a town but there is a church because where the apartments are in Winston is in downtown and there are churches everywhere. And I'm sure one of those has an AA meeting, but
And is welcoming.
Yeah.
And is welcoming.
It is a very welcoming community up there, both of those towns, Winston and Torrington. So he could have, I'm sure there's AA meetings in one of those churches right there on the green where probably his apartment's gonna be close to. You know, once he gets outside of downtown in Torrington and Winston, you're out in the countryside. There's nothing out there, but if.
Let me ask, Mr. Lawson, why did you go to the AA meeting inside?
Because I've never been to an AA meeting and I wanted to hear everybody else's story. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
So how was it? Did you like it? Was it helpful?
It was very helpful.
Okay.
I'm willing to go back.
Okay, but let me say to you that AA is built on the foundation of the 12 steps.
Yes.
So it's not sitting in meetings, drinking bad coffee and listening to other people talk. It's a vehicle to actually work on yourself.
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, obviously, if we were to grant you today, you would not go out this weekend. So please pick up the tablet and look at the 12 steps.
Okay.
And figure out, you know, how to begin the work on yourself that program supports.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's what we all want. This lack of understanding of the dangerousness of addiction, especially meth, we're talking.
Yes.
You can't let your guard down. You just absolutely not, you know, and I'm hoping that he gets that. So, you know, I'm with you. This isn't a perfect situation, but I do think that he could benefit from these 4 months.
Okay.
You know, with some supervision and if he can't keep it together in 4 months, he's just going to be back here. I mean, you have to serve the rest of the time. You know what I mean?
So in terms of conditions, I would like to place a halfway house in case.
Yeah, Jack, I agree.
You know, this room for rent situation isn't what it appears to be on paper. And I'd like to have no contact with the victim initials JC, also known by a female first name.
Yes.
Do you have anything else?
Well, he talked about, when you talk about his addiction, his problems, he talked about alcohol a little bit. So I don't know if you guys have discussed that. If he should be in those
I
4
think,
months.
I think,
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, you know, if you're really gonna step off on the right foot and benefit from the supports
Go
of
4 months without drinking alcohol.
parole, you can do it sober, yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay, here we go. In the matter of Jamal Lawson, inmate number 436443, there's a motion to grant parole on or after today's date of March 28, 2025, with the following conditions. You are not to consume any alcohol. You are not to have any contact with the victim initials JC or
Serena.
perhaps SC, and halfway house placement in case it's needed. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So this is really us extending you, you know, a life preserver, Mr. Lawson. And I
Can I
hope
say
that
this? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
it's a life preserver that we're extending to you, recognizing that you'd be better off going out with a short period of support and supervision that parole can provide so that you can get on the right path going forward. And we hope that you will work with your parole officer and see this as a benefit to you and not like parole where you're dodging and avoiding and
Running away.
not reporting. I hope you've turned over a new leaf, sir.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Go on, do the right thing.
Thank you so much.
Concludes the parole hearing for Jamal Lawson, 436-443.
Thank you.
Can we take a short
Piper,
Absolutely.
thank you.
break?
Comfort break.
How you did it, man? You did it. All right, Louis, I need the cake. Of course, I went to go to the bathroom when I need the cake. You know, it's just perfect. Perfect time, right? I mean, good luck, Mike. All right, sir. There you go, bro. I don't need these anymore. Give it back. Yeah, go ahead. All right, have a seat right there. They'll be right with you. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Piper, we're just taking a short break. We'll be with you shortly, a couple minutes.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
Good morning, Mr. Piper.
Good morning.
My name is Parole Officer Logan. Today is Friday, March 28, 2025, and this is the hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available for information and preparation of this hearing.
Nancy Turner, good morning.
Good morning, Robert Sazowskis.
Good morning, panel member Rodriguez.
Good morning.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record.
Gordon Piper, 435011.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Gordon Piper, 435011. He is serving a sentence of 5 years, executed suspended after 2.5 years, followed by 3 years probation for burglary third. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of September 18, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed domestic violence and voices. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the high range of risk recidivism. Mr. Piper, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
If you guys don't mind, I have a letter that I wrote. Do you mind if I read it?
Go right ahead.
Excuse me. I'm a little bit nervous, so pardon me if I mess up a little bit or anything, all right? First off, I want to thank the board for seeing me today. And the reasons I'm here before you today are due to my poor decisions and bad choices that I've made in the past. I stand here accountable for those past decisions. After being incarcerated for 21 months, I've came to realize that how I was thinking and acting was abnormal. However, during my incarceration, I've had the opportunity to take the program's voices in domestic violence. And with the help of both of these programs, I was able to take a hard look within myself and came to the conclusions that I'm going to do better as a man, a father, and a productive citizen of the state of Connecticut. Throughout the course of the Voices program, I learned how my actions affected the victim of my crime. And I've also learned to consider the consequences of my actions, not only for me, but the people around me. For that, I'm ashamed of my past actions, and I'm remorseful for being that person in the past. Throughout the domestic violence program, I've learned how to think first and not let my anger dictate my actions. And I've learned that my anger is a choice. Like everyone else in the world, I only can choose what to do with my own anger. Also, during the domestic violence program, I came to the understanding that if I'm angry, I'm either afraid or I'm in pain. And I accept both of these feelings and know I can take a deeper look into them when I can only control myself. And I've learned to treat all people the same, no matter whether female or male. My goal is to go home and use everything I've learned through all my time being incarcerated to navigate through life and stay out of the prison system. I have 3 children that I want to give the best life possible so I can make sure that they never have to end up in the situations like the ones that I've put myself into. I have a release to-do list. Upon release, I have a job lined up for Dunkin' Donuts. And if that job does not hold up, my backup plan is to apply to a warehouse as in Bazzuto's or Macy's. I have a lot of experience painting and doing lawn care, so I'll be looking for a job in those areas also. If I were to be released on parole, I would do everything in my power to stay out of trouble and stay up. Excuse me, I jammed the word, to stay out of trouble with the help of my support system. And that's it.
All right, Mr. Piper, thanks for putting your thoughts on paper,
Thank you for hearing them.
providing us that information. I think we'll probably have some questions about what you just shared, and we also have questions that we prepared based on the documents that were available to us. After we're done asking you questions, then we will discuss your case and you'll have our decision this morning. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. We're going to start with questions from my colleague, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Piper, for your opening statement. appreciate it. You know, you addressed some things briefly. But I have to be honest with you. I'm concerned, you know, and although you've acknowledged like some understanding of your behavior, I'm concerned about your behavior. The charge is a burglary third, but in the process of that, you broke into a house, you beat up your girlfriend, you punched her. There was a lot of violence involved in that taking of what you took, the items that you took with you. It was not your first assault issue as well. You had a prior issue with assault, also a DV kind of situation where you had that assault as well. And I think in my reading of your documents, you talk about your anger and, you know, how angry you can get and how it impacts you. And I know that you've taken some programs. You shared about some of the programs that you've taken that you've learned. But what I found interesting was that you had 7 disciplinary reports, this incarceration. And 2 of them were after your programming, and they were for fighting. And they were right after your program. You finished your program in August, and you had 2 fighting tickets in September. And in your opening statement, you talked about, you know, understanding how you need to control these things and how you learn how to do this. But that, for me, doesn't reflect that. And I realize that was a while back, and you haven't had any tickets since then. But I mean, it doesn't reflect that kind of thinking that you shared, that you learned. Can you tell me what the discrepancy is in that? Why that is that you didn't put in place the things that you learned, the skills that you learned to avoid those 2 major fighting tickets?
Okay. I'm going to start by saying I take full accountability for partaking in those fights. And I'm not going to say that it was out of my control, because I could have found a better way to deal with the fighting situations. But I don't know if on the paper you see that I finished the SRG program, and situations happened where I didn't want to do what somebody in the SRG program wanted me to do. And I guess for that, he had it out for me. I didn't initiate those fights, but I did partake in them. So I take full accountability for that. And my whole time being incarcerated, I did my time in the SRG program when I'll put my hands on anybody or catching any ticket. But I look at it like, you know, I'm a grown man, so I have to take responsibility for my actions. But I couldn't control when somebody else wants to, you know, put their hands on me or something like that. I really just feel like I was defending myself both times. If I got approved for the halfway, I wanted to go home. I wasn't trying to get into a fight to mess that up. I was just trying to get back to my kids. But I do take accountability. I could have did anything or something or anything else to avoid being, you know, in that situation.
You don't feel you could have done something else?
No, I do.
You feel you could?
Yeah, I feel I could have.
Yeah.
I could have. You know, I could have.
Yeah, I get that, because you talked about in your opening statement about having learned how to handle, you know, those kinds of situations, right? And my concern is that could happen on the outside, right? You could run into somebody on the outside and not be able to use, you know, just kind of get to that place again where you feel, you know, you're not using those things. You didn't take anger management. It's right, it's on your OAP.
Yeah.
But you didn't take it. Is there something you think you still need to take?
I feel like throughout the anger, the domestic violence and the voices, I did learn some techniques to control my anger. So I can't really say that I do need it, but I feel like when I get into, if I were to be granted parole, I would still go for anger management, because there are some stuff that I'm dealing with, not that has to do with anybody else, stuff that I'm dealing with internally that I feel like I should seek counseling for, that probably contributes to my anger.
Have you attempted to try to get that kind of counseling while you're there?
Yeah, I haven't asked about another program that'll help, but I just I don't feel like this, when I was in Osborne, I asked for a program that could help for me to talk to somebody about what I'm going through. And, but I got moved around to other jails, and since I got moved around, I haven't asked again about it.
See. So you haven't asked about it since you've been there, that's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
You hear my concern though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
You also scored a 2 on your substance abuse. During the course of these events, were you using any kind of substances?
During the course of the events, oh, you mean
The burglary third, huh?
Oh no. Other than smoking marijuana, I wasn't using any of the drugs. Or pills, prescription pain pills, like as in Percocets. I probably was using those during the time, but during the time of the crime, I don't think so.
So you weren't high during the time you committed this offense?
No, sir.
Which even concerns me more, that you kind of had control of your normal thinking patterns, and you weren't led by any being intoxicated or being high or any of that. So your anger is coming from some other places, which also concerns me. I mean, this is very difficult for me. We have to figure out whether you're suitable to be able to be released, right? And I have to really consider public safety in all of this, right? We have to consider public safety in all of this, and I'm feeling like you need to do a little bit more to kind of get a little bit more control of this, because the fact that you took the programs and a month later you got to do a fight, and I understand that in the situation that you're in, those things can happen, but we have lots of cases that we hear where guys are kind of in similar situations that they find ways to not find themselves in in that situation, creating fighting. And that's my concern, and I wanted you to kind of understand that. The other thing is that you were on probation when this happened, and that's another concern. You had 2 other unsuccessful bouts of violations of probation, and some of them were related to the previous offense and all of this.
Also an assault.
And also one was assault, right? And although I heard what you had to say, and I do agree that you probably got some things from the programs that you did take, because it sounds to me like you did, learn some things about it. Somehow something didn't stick with you, and that I think I need to see addressed. And for me, I think you do need to take an anger management, probably before you come out, and you've got some time. You're there till November. I'm trying to figure out what makes sense in this particular situation. The fact that you broke into this house, kicked the door in, and that was I can't imagine that. That would really break into my house and start punching me and take my stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about your support system on the outside.
My mother's my number one supporter. My mother's been by my side my whole life. Sometimes I haven't listened to her because I wanted to do my own thing when I was younger. I have older brothers and sisters that support me, and my mom's brother is a big supporter of me. He whenever I needed like help thinking or something like that, he helps me out. And my godfather, my godfather.
So you have family. You have family on the outside.
Yes.
Your sisters already adults?
Yep.
Are they involved in relationships?
Yep. Yes.
How would you feel if their partners broke into the house, kicked the door in, beat them up, took their stuff?
That would hurt real bad.
What happens with you when you struggle with these relationships? What seems to be the driving issue?
Well, my last relationship, it was like it was a different situation, you know. And I'm not trying to make anything make a excuse or an exception for anything I did, but it was I was just informed about something that she. So I'm just going to be transparent. I was told that she had
Oh, we have that information. We have that
okay.
already. So we know what that particular reason was, but I mean, you didn't have to handle it by breaking into her house and beating her up. I mean, you could have had a conversation with her and asked. I mean, you know what I mean? With those concerns, you could have gone to the health department in advance and gotten checked out, and you could have done lots of other things instead of kicking the door in, because you heard that. Yeah.
And in the end,
And yeah, you could have used protection, and the other thing is you found out that there wasn't anything.
yeah.
You hadn't contracted anything. If you just could have avoided all of that by just getting checked out if you had concerns about it. And then if you did have something, you would have just reported it, and the health department would have taken care of dealing with it from the other end. So, so I'm like, those are my really big concerns with you. You didn't do that kind of thinking, and I'm hoping that you have learned some stuff from what you've taken, your domestic violence and Voices program. And Voices really kind of, even though you talked about dealing with anger, for me, Voices really deals with more of the impact of your actions on victims. Mm-hmm. and the community and other elements that are affected by the things that you do. And domestic violence, although I'm sure there's an anger management component to it, should focus on establishing positive relationships and how you do that and what's a good relationship and how you handle yourself and what are your triggers, those kinds of things. And not a lot on, I'm sure this anger management touched upon, but not really specifically looking at what are the driving factors for you when it comes to your anger, because you're an angry person. The things that you've done. And you just said you wouldn't wish this on your sister.
Not at all.
So I think for yourself, you need to figure out what that is, so that you need to man up. That's one of the things you need to do, right? You need to really look at this. You're not supposed to put your hand on anybody, in a relationship, absolutely, whoever your partner is. And I'm hoping that, that you'll take the time that you have, whatever happens today, and that you get yourself in some sort of anger management program. And really seriously look at it, or alternatives to violence, something that really helps you kind of connect with what are the driving factors in you being such an angry person. Because you said it a couple of times when you're talking to the parole officer and some of the things that we've read, that this is who you are. Yeah. And you were young when this happened. I get it. This was a couple of years back, and you were young when these things happened, but you can't do this. This is unacceptable.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pass it on to my colleagues, and if I have any additional questions, I'll come back to ask. Thank you for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
And I wish you a lot of luck, Mr. Piper.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Sosowski.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. So, Mr. Piper, as my colleague just pointed out, you're a young man. You were 23 when you committed this most recent crime. And by 23, you already had victimized 2 women in your intimate partner relationships. Do you see yourself as the common denominator in this scenario?
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you grow up in a situation where you witnessed domestic violence?
No, I never really witnessed domestic violence growing up.
Okay. All right. I feel pretty confident that your mother taught you to respect women.
Yes.
So you have a child in common with the victim you were on probation for the assault 3-4 when you committed the burglary. And that runs through the year 2049. Do you understand what a protective order means?
Yes, ma'am.
While you were on probation, did you participate in the Explore program?
No, when I was on probation, you mean for when I was on probation recently?
Before you committed the burglary third?
Yeah, I was supposed to start the Explore program, but I didn't have a state ID. And when I went to my probation officer to get one printed out, but when I went to the program to use it, they said I can't use it. I need a actual a physical ID. And when I went to the DMV, they gave me a date to go, and it was I say like 2-3 weeks into the future. And by that time, I guess they said they had to close my case with the program, and that went back to my probation.
Okay, so you never fully engaged in the program, probably never even did the initial interview because you weren't responsible enough to have a state issued ID. Have you fixed that situation, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because you went out to probation in 2023, right? After
Yes.
the 11 months that was execution suspended. So you probably went out the end of 2022, and within less than a year, you were back on the first violation of probation, and now you have a second violation of the same period of probation. And a second victim on top of that. So how long were you with the victim initials AJ before this burglary?
I believe 8 months, 8 or 9 months.
So you really hadn't gotten to know each other all that well, I'm assuming. That's a short period of time.
Yeah, it's a short period.
So what do you take away from all of this? What were your lessons learned?
My lessons learned are that's a good question. Can I get like a couple seconds to like gather my thoughts, please?
Absolutely.
My lessons learned from this, what I take back from not just this situation, but every situation, is get to know somebody and about them before you not submit yourself to them, but before you like give yourself
lay down with them.
Yes, before you lay down with them. And don't just act off of impulse, because no matter how I was feeling, I know I made her feel worse, and I probably made all of them feel worse. Just as you grow up, I just gotta always just. Sorry.
You're doing fine.
Yeah.
I just the big takeaway is just keep it together and use my mind before I do anything, and I can talk to people.
That uncomfortable feeling where your emotions are really intense and it's usually feels like anger, it passes really quickly.
Yeah.
You just breathe through it and let your mind take over instead of, like you're saying, acting on the impulse. I'm really happy for you, sir, that you got to get to know whoever you're starting a relationship with. you got to build trust. It takes time. And
Mhm.
once that trust is built, then your partner will feel like they can share the difficult information with you.
Yeah.
And that you can respect the information, not go spreading rumors and disrespecting them on social media and whatever. But the honesty, and the trust go hand in hand, but the trust comes first. The honesty helps build the trust, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So it turns out that what you were told or thought about this person and their medical condition wasn't at all true, right? So
Yes.
where did you hear this nasty rumor?
I had heard it from a third party, but when I confronted her about it, she told me it was true though. I heard it from her own mouth. We did have a couple.
Okay, but let me just, so you were willing to listen to somebody else about information pertaining to the person that you were dating. Okay, so, and the other thing that I want to bring into this, Mr. Piper, is that in the police report that we have about the incident in 2023, they detail that it's the third incident since May where you had assaulted her. So, when you disrespect and abuse or actually put your hands on your partner in violence, in anger, it's very hard for them to feel like they can share with you important information, because really this early on in a relationship, for there to be this much, violence from you, I mean, she could be nothing but afraid of you. So she's not going to put out information that is going to probably result in you being even more abusive and violent. So obviously you've taken the Understanding Domestic Violence program, and now you're going to go out and you're going to need to take the Explore program. Do you think it's something that could help you?
Yeah. I honestly feel like I can take a couple programs that help me, but the Explore program is definitely a program I probably need to take.
Not even probably. You have 2 victims, sir, at the age of 23. Now you're 26. It's time to step up and own your behavior and your choices and how you treat your partners. What I really want you to learn about is strangulation. Because your last partner, you put your hands around her throat and squeezed. And in our state, we have a separate law against strangulation. Some people call it choking, but that's really when, there's something stuck in your throat. So it's a high risk situation in which, without intending to, you could actually kill a person. Because you never know how much or how little pressure you put on somebody's throat could kill them, could break the hyoid bone in the throat. It could cause internal swelling that hours later, like a bruise inside, can cut off their airway. It's a very serious act to put your hands around the throat of another person or animal.
And can I just add, Madam Chair, that just because you think it wasn't strangulation, and you didn't, the victim, I'm sure, felt it as if it was strangulation.
Well, there was descriptions about the impact on her speaking voice and how it felt afterwards. So it's internal swelling and bruising that you wouldn't see, you wouldn't know about. But police are trained, and if her voice is altered by the injuries, she needs immediate medical attention to ensure that her airway stays open and she stays alive. So the child that you have in common with the previous victim, do you have any contact?
Yes.
Okay. And you're doing that from inside the facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because there is a standing criminal protective order. Is it a full no contact order?
No, I don't believe it is, but I contact my son's grandmother to speak to him.
Okay.
So my baby's mother's mom, I contact her to get in contact.
I understand what you were saying. Okay. Be really careful. Make sure, find out when you start working with your probation or parole officer, find out whether the order is a full no contact order or just a partial order preventing you from acting violently and abusively towards her before you step in it because you want access to your child. Okay. Do you have contact with the other two kids?
Yes, I have contact with my daughter through DCF, and my firstborn, I have contact with him through his mother.
You got a lot of responsibility on your shoulders for someone as young as you are.
Yeah, I know.
And that's also another concern. I mean, you already have 3 children and you were willing to have unprotected sex with someone you were dating for less than 8 months. You got to think about what's realistic in your life for really being a dad and providing for your kids before you make more.
Right.
What are your life goals, Mr. Piper?
So my life goals is I just want to take care of I want to be happy and be able to take care of my kids and just spend as much time with them as I can. And like another life goal I have is I'm really into music, and I do comedy. I really like making people laugh. So like my life goals is to take that up. Like social media is like a big thing that I could like try to like put a lot of my of like my content around the world. So whether it be music or comedy. But
those are great outlets, sir. They really are. It'll tap into your creativity, but it's very hard to make money at. So I'm going to encourage you to think about those as hobbies and interests and ways to, further your happiness in the world. But you need an income. You have children to support.
Yes,
so what's your plan in terms of employment?
My mom has a friend who she's a manager at a Dunkin' Donuts, and she says
that's right. You did say. I'm sorry. I did write that down. And a warehouse otherwise.
Yep.
And a lot of young people have more than one job. And with the responsibilities you have financially to provide for your kids, it's something to keep yourself open to. When you say you want to take care of your kids, I'm going to encourage you to think about supporting your children being successful in life. And one of the keys to success in life is an education. And I'm very concerned for you, Mr. Piper, that you don't have a GED. And, you are their example. And if you value education because you go back to school and you get yours, they will value it for themselves. So I hope that your plan includes some serious hard work at adult ed to get your GED. Is there a reason you're not doing school while you're incarcerated? Is it because of all your DRs?
Yeah, that was why. But before I got the DRs, I signed up too, and I was on the waiting list.
Of course, there's wait lists for everything. But
Yeah,
you
well,
fall down further in the wait list when you get the damn DRs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the time remaining on your sentence, because you will go out this year, I'd encourage you to create a plan for yourself that looks at everything from your mental health to your employment, where you're going to live, and your hobbies, the things that give you pleasure. But you need to break it down, you know, what you're going to do the first week you're out, the first month, what are you going to accomplish? And, you know, put it on paper like you did your opening statement for us. So you have something that will ground you when you're out and there's a million demands on your time and people who want to see you and are, you know, inviting you places to do things. You got to keep your focus. You talk about your mom being so important to you.
Yes, ma'am.
This really stood out for me. And maybe you can clarify. So while you were being detained by the police back in June of 2023 in Waterbury, your mother came to the scene. She said she was sick and tired of your behavior and said you were not welcome in her home. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
I think it's really important that you have a talk with your mom. There's some damage that's been done by the choices that you've made that have brought you to prison, that have, you know, that, you know, are about how you were living out in the community. And you need to work on that relationship with her.
Yes.
I would say to you, Mr. Piper, you're very lucky to still have her in your life.
Yes,
And,
ma'am. I know that.
Yeah. Okay, sir. That's all the questions that I have, and I think the board has. So give us just a few minutes to discuss, and then we'll get back to you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate Mr. Piper's opening statement. He reflected that he has done some work in attending some of the programs that he's been able to attend. But I also share that I have some real concerns. I mean, he took the programming and no sooner than 2 months later got into 2 fights. And a big portion of his issues have been his anger. One of the statements he made to the parole officer during his interview was he was blinded by his anger.
That's how bad.
So that's pretty
The
intense that he didn't even realize that a young child was in the room at the time. He was blinded. He didn't see him. And that statement alone concerned me. And so, I mean, I would love to give Mr. Piper an opportunity. I think the opportunity that I want to give him is to be able to have some time to, as you mentioned, to put a plan together for himself when he comes out, to give him some opportunity to try to get into an anger management program and really kind of focus in on his anger. Because I do think that he's gotten some things from domestic violence and voices, and combined with the anger management, I think that might really help him. At least when he comes out, he's going to be facing a lot of these issues when he comes out, as you shared, that he's going to have to be able to deal with and handle. And I wouldn't want him to, for some reason, become blinded by his anger and hurt somebody on the outside and find himself back in here for his benefit. Because I think he's got some real opportunity and some real possible potential. You present well today. And I want to make sure he has the opportunity to do that. And I know it's to November. I'm a denial for today. And I'm not considering a rehear because I think he needs the time to really sit down and plan this thing out and try to get into whatever program. A fatherhood program would help him to some degree. Yeah. So I think there's some additional program that he can take that would really be very helpful. That's kind of where I'm at today.
I understand that completely. It is, it's quite an ask to think of early release on a 2.5-year sentence for such a violent. I mean, this was originally charged as a home invasion.
Yeah.
And he would have been looking at 20 years. And, you know, I feel like a denial is consequence. It's a consequence for what he was doing out in the community. It's a consequence for his 70 Rs during this period of incarceration. It's a consequence for violating his probation. You know, he doesn't have a lot to stand on in terms of his high risk to reoffend, his never being successful on community release. He's had 2 failures and 2 opportunities. And now he has 2 domestic violence victims. He did say when he was interviewed by the parole officer that he thought his sentence was fair. And I think it was fortunate because it was a lot of risk to the community, to these individuals who were trying to share their life with him. I hope he'll do some work on anger because usually with domestic offenders, abusers, you know, it's a matter of deep insecurity, low self-esteem. And I'm glad he's got interest in hobbies and a commitment to his children. And he really needs to build his own sense of his own self-worth and his own self-esteem in order to not want to control his partner, because that's the consequence. You feel insecure and you manage those feelings by controlling your partner. And as he said in his opening statement, he knows, you know, you can't control anybody but yourself. Mr. Sosakis, where are you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, you know, we're talking about the statements that parole officer and something else he said in here. At times I can be violent, you know, and he spoke about his unresolved anger and his willingness to do work in the community. He does have anger management on his OAP, so I'm hopeful that maybe he can get that done before he leaves. And I would encourage him to do, as he said, to seek counseling and therapy and anger management out in the community. He has 3 years of probation, so he can use those resources hopefully to get into some of those programs that prevent things like this from happening again. I hope. But for today, it's a denial for me.
Without a reader.
For me, yes.
Okay. All right.
I had nature and circumstances of offense.
Offense on probation.
Offense committed on probation. I had inadequate institutional program participation and poor institutional adjustment.
Okay, I'm going to go with poor institutional adjustment and not the inadequate program participation, but I'm going to go with an inadequate release plan.
Okay.
He doesn't have a sponsor and he doesn't have a job and he doesn't have an education. So he's got a lot of pieces to put together in a plan to be successful and to keep his focus when he's back in the community. All right, so in the matter of Gordon Piper, inmate number 435011, there is a motion to deny parole for the following reasons: the nature and circumstance of your offense being committed while you were on probation, your poor institutional adjustment during this period of incarceration, and your inadequate release plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, Mr. Piper, we couldn't see our way to granting discretionary parole to you today. You will go out to 3 years of probation. We wish you much success. Hope you can keep your focus and keep working on yourself, sir.
Thank you very much.
You have some potential.
Thank you.
Am I okay to leave, to step up?
This completes, yes.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
This completes the parole hearing for the claim report 35011. My name is Parole Officer Logan. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025. The case review for Parole, Claudio, 418645 at the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Nancy Turner.
Robert Sisowskis.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Mr. Claudio is serving 10 years, followed by 10 years special parole for sexual assault first, victim less than 13, actor more than 2 years older. Mr. Claudio has waived his discretionary parole, and this hearing is being conducted to set special parole stipulations. At this time, the panel will now deliberate and set special parole stipulations.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to set the following conditions for Mr. Claudio's 10 years of special parole supervision. He is to engage in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community. He is to have no contact with minors. He is to be placed in a halfway house. He is to have no contact with victims AC, JC, and the mother of the victims. I'm sorry, Casey.
JC and JC, the mother.
The mother being JC. He's to have restrictions on pornography, and he is to have enhanced device monitoring. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This concludes the case review hearing to set special parole stipulation for Carlos Claudio, 418635.
Thank you, Mr. Claudio, for sparing up the hearing.
Oh, my God. Really?
Good morning. My name is Parole Officer Logan. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025. This is the case review for Travis hearing 338540 at the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Nancy Turner.
Robert Sisowskis.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Mr. Herring is serving 4 years, followed by 4 years special parole for violation of a protective order, strangulation or suffocation second, and failure to appear first. Mr. Herring has waived his discretionary parole, and this hearing is being conducted to set special parole stipulations. At this time, the panel will now deliberate and set special parole stipulations.
So in the matter of Travis Herring, I make a motion to set the following conditions for his 4 years of special parole. He's to participate in behavior management for domestic violence. He's not to consume any alcohol. He's to be placed in a halfway house and to have no contact with the victim initials JS. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
This concludes the case review hearing to set special parole stipulations for Travis Herring 338540. Good morning, my name is Parole Officer Logan. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025. This is a case review for Raymond Vega 398194 to adjust special parole stipulation. The Following board members are present this morning and by stating on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutory required documents and available for any information and preparation of this hearing.
Nancy Turner.
Robert Sosowski.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
The offender had a hearing on January 31st, 2025, which indicated that the offender wanted to serve his special parole term in the state of New York. The offender has requested to have the stipulation removed and be allowed to remain in Connecticut for his special parole term of 10 years. Has the board reached a decision?
I make a motion to remove the parole to out of state from the conditions for Mr. Vega's supervision. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This concludes the case review for Raymond Vega 398-194. It also concludes the Brooklyn hearing. It is 11:32 a.m.
Thank you, Officer.